Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive on The Explainer. Today, we're looking at one of nature's most impressive and highly structured life cycles, the complete metamorphosis of ants. We see them marching across our sidewalks, maybe sometimes invading our kitchens, but the journey a single ant takes to become a fully functioning adult, it's an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. In this explainer, we're going to focus entirely on how ants undergo four incredibly distinct stages of life, transforming from vulnerable microscopic specks into highly specialized members of a super society. Okay, let's dive into this. Before we even get to the stages, we have to understand what an ant actually is. They belong to the Formicidae family, and they're what biologists call social insects. So they aren't just simple bugs crawling around randomly. Living as a social insect means they exist together in massive colonies, defined by an intense level of organization. We're talking about cooperative brood care where everyone helps raise the young, a strict division of labor, and highly specialized tasks assigned to specific members. Honestly, absolute cooperation is the literal only way this insect survives.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the organized colony, then walk step by step through stage 1, the tiny egg, stage 2, the hungry larva, stage 3, the resting pupa, and finally, stage 4, the adult casts.
Section 1. The organized colony. Building the superorganism. It's absolutely crucial to realize that every single ant's biological development is tied directly to the survival of the larger colony. The superorganism relies on three main castes: the queen, the males, and the workers. These three roles are the ultimate destination for every ant in the colony, but getting there requires an incredible transformation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the strict chronological timeline governing this whole metamorphosis. Day 1 begins when the egg is laid. After hatching into a larva, depending on the species, it takes about 6 to 12 days to transition into a pupa, and then another 6 to 10 entire weeks to emerge as an adult. It's a rigorous, incredibly time-consuming process. Stage 1. The tiny egg. So, physically, ant eggs are soft, oval-shaped, and incredibly tiny white objects. And you might actually have some first-hand experience with this. Have you ever accidentally kicked over an anthill or seen a line of ants carrying these small white objects in their jaws as they frantically scramble to safety? Well, those aren't crumbs of food. Those are actually these highly vulnerable eggs being relocated by the colony.
The reality of stage 1 is that it's a total numbers game. These eggs are laid exclusively by a mature female. While there are usually plenty of other female ants running around the colony, only one of them is permitted to lay eggs, and that, of course, is the queen. Now, she lays tons of these, but only a few actually make it to maturity. Why? Because these tiny, soft eggs are highly targeted as food by outside predators. It immediately raises the stakes, right? It shows exactly why cooperative brood care from the rest of the colony is literally a matter of life and death.
Stage 2. The hungry larva. When a larva hatches directly out of the egg, it is essentially just a worm-shaped entity that completely lacks eyes and completely lacks legs. Think about the absolute helplessness of that stage. Without vision, without mobility, the larva is entirely dependent on the other members of the colony for its survival.
Let's move to and see how this builds. To overcome that helplessness, they enter a massive growth protocol. Despite having no eyes or legs, larvae are incredibly heavy eaters. They rely entirely on adult workers to constantly supply them with food. As they furiously consume this constant supply, they grow rapidly in size, and to accommodate this expanding mass, they have to molt, shedding their skin several times. So the workers just keep feeding them, and the larvae just keep growing and molting.
Stage 3. The resting pupa. Now, as we noted on our timeline earlier, depending on the species, it takes about 6 to 12 days for the growing larva to officially transition into a pupa. Biologists categorize the pupa as a resting stage, but honestly, don't let that term fool you. While it might look peaceful on the outside, internally, it's the most chaotic biological phase of the ant's life. A massive internal transformation and reorganization is taking place. The final adult form is literally being folded and built. It begins to look more like an adult ant, but its new legs and antennae are tightly folded against its body. Plus, interestingly enough, some ant species will actually spin a protective cocoon around themselves for added safety during this highly vulnerable phase. And they absolutely need that protection, because this isn't quick. After a long wait of about 6 to 10 weeks in this resting stage, the pupa will finally transition into its ultimate form.
Stage 4. The adult casts.
This is where the biological journey meets the sociological needs of the colony. When the young adult emerges, it isn't fully armored yet. They arrive with soft, lighter-colored skin that gradually darkens over time. More importantly, that soft skin hardens into a tough exoskeleton. This is a vital armor upgrade that perfectly protects the ant's internal organs. But there's a trade-off. Once that exoskeleton hardens, it permanently restricts the ant from growing any larger. This is their final physical form.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most fascinating biological quirks of the ant world: gender determination. Whether an ant emerges as a male or a female was actually decided all the way back in stage 1. If the egg the queen laid was fertilized, it will always produce a female ant. If the egg was unfertilized, it will always produce a male ant. No exceptions.
So, the crucial point is that all 4 stages of metamorphosis culminate in filling one of these 3 highly specific, non-negotiable roles that keep the superorganism alive. If a female is destined to be a queen, she'll be much larger, initially having long wings that eventually fall off, and her sole job is laying all the eggs. If a female becomes a worker, she'll be smaller and wingless. She won't lay eggs, but she performs all the day-to-day work, like feeding those hungry larvae we talked about. Finally, the males. They're winged, they can fly, and their dedicated role is simply to mate with the queen.
It is just a beautifully complex and tightly regulated system where every single individual goes through this incredible 4-stage transformation simply to serve the whole. It really makes you look at these common backyard insects in a totally new light. So I leave you with this thought. Next time you're out on a walk and you see a line of ants frantically carrying small white objects, will you recognize the fragile first stage of their incredible, highly organized super society? Think about the amazing metamorphosis journey those tiny eggs are about to take. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and keep staying curious.